Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to this edition of SportsView on Monday, the 5th of February, 2024, and it's 8:15 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And welcome, Derwynne.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Pat.
Welcome, Joe, again.
Hi, Derwynne. Hi, Pat.
Now, we hope to introduce a new sport tonight, to me anyway, on the programme. It's called walking soccer. And there you go now. It's being introduced locally here, so we'll have one of the proponents of it coming in later on. He said as soon as he gets his mic and headphones and all sorted out, he'll be in to join us. Anyway, we're beginning tonight with soccer as usual, soccer roundup, and glancing over the screen as we're on air. Brentford are hosting Man City, and this is the first of the two games in hand that Man City have to play. And the next one they'll be playing against Everton the weekend. So if they win both of those, they'll be top of the league. No surprise there, I suppose. Anyway, we had an eventful week in the Premier League soccer, and during the week, Arsenal beat Forest, and Luton Town beat Brighton 4-1, and Crystal Palace won as well during the week. Newcastle beat Villa, and City beat Burnley. No surprise there, and Spurs. Beat Brentford, and Liverpool beat Chelsea during the week as well. And these are all the Premiership. And Man United beat Wolves during the week, which was a good win for them. And Brighton beat Crystal Palace. Villa beat Sheffield United. And over the weekend, in Luton drew in a cracking game. Of course, I would say that 4-4 with Newcastle. So Luton Town scored 8 goals in their two Premiership matches, which is astonishing when you look at the teams they were playing. But I would say that, wouldn't I? But Man United, yes, I saw most of their game. Derwynne, did you see their game yesterday?
I was in and out most of the day yesterday, so I had it on the radio. But,
yeah.
West Ham didn't sound like they were up to much. And I watched Match of the Day, the highlights.
Yeah. There's a good 3 points for them for Man United, I think, And the younger players, the 22, 19 and 18, the 3 younger players around the Man United team were pretty impressive to me, Pretty good.
Yeah, Mainu looks really good, doesn't he?
Yeah, I find it interesting, United beat West Ham 3-0, and people don't want to make a big deal about it. Well, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. But they still had to beat them. And then, people are up in arms in midweek when United came back and won 4-3 against Wolves. And then Wolves go out yesterday on Saturday and beat Chelsea 4-2 at Chelsea.
That's right.
Wolves are a good team, and they're a very, very tough team to play against. So, So, I mean, you look at it and you go, well, United should be doing this, should be doing that. And there's very few people who want to give them any credit when they're actually moving in a good direction, But that's the way it goes. I thought they played well. The young players played well. You still had the same issues. Rashford doesn't want to track back. I watched him 2 or 3 times, and he deliberately let people go. And then he makes the effort afterwards to catch up when it's too late. And that to me is not just bad. It is a bad example to younger players, not that they don't have to do that either. And what's his name? Bruno Fernandes does the same thing, goes the wrong side of people and then tries to make tackles. And that's, if they could get rid of that, then that would go a good ways to helping them be a lot more successful. And of course, they've started getting guys back fit.
I saw a good bit. I saw a good bit of the Arsenal Liverpool match. Liverpool were very poor. Arsenal were very good. The Liverpool back unit and the goalkeeper were shocking. Derwynne, did you see that match? Any of that match?
Yeah, I mean, what Joe's saying about United, I think is right. I mean, Maguire looked a bit suspect again.
He's played 14 games and they've won 13 of them, so it's kind of hard to have a go at him. If you're going to talk about Maguire being suspect, then you have to look at and Liverpool's back four and Arsenal's back four. I mean, the 4 goals that were scored in that game were, in my opinion, practically a shambles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
but
yeah.
2 teams at the top of the Premier League, and they're beaten by balls right up the middle of the field. And defenders cannot hold off forwards, are not strong enough to hold them off. And there's 2 Keystone Cop goals scored, in my opinion. The Liverpool goal was what Saliba was doing. I mean, the first thing you're taught in that situation is that they don't score from rows A. So put the ball in the stand. Do not mess about with it in your own box. And
Yeah.
that's what happened. And I mean, the first goal for Liverpool, their defense was all over the place.
I mean, they're purported by the so-called commentators on soccer in Britain that their Liverpool goalkeeper is the best in the world. He was a complete shambles yesterday.
But I mean,
Shambles.
it was, I mean,
Van Dijk is, as we mentioned here before, Van Dijk has gone back an awful lot, you know?
well, I mean, Van Dijk didn't have a great game yesterday. He was, but you know what? He wasn't helped out by the people in front of him. You know,
Well, that's true,
like
yeah.
the goal was a little bit, and then I mean, he gets himself into a good position for the third goal to get a foot to it, to get a block to it. I mean, I think
Sorry, lads. Sorry, Joe. Brentford have scored. They're 1-0 up against Man City in the 21st minute.
oh, there you go. So I thought he got into a good position for the third one, but it's just one of those things. You put your foot out for a block, it comes off the end of your toe, and Allison can't do anything about that. It just goes through his legs. I mean, it's one of those things. He made a great save for the first goal, and like, unfortunately for him, it bounces right back to Saka, and he sticks it away. So, I mean, the misunderstanding between him and Van Dijk for the second one was one that you'd hope wouldn't happen to a player of that, or 2 players that caliber. But Liverpool had good chances as well. And I didn't think they played that badly. I mean, they weren't. I mean, they weren't atrocious. I mean, they had a chance. They had some chances that on another day could have gone in, and they might have got a result out of it. So they got some players back. They were able to play some guys. They had Andy Robertson back, playing him, and of course once Konate got sent off, that was really, the end of their effort with it, because they completely reshuffled the team at that point, and you've got guys. Luis Diaz was hanging out at right back some of the time, and Harvey Elliott was hanging out there. So I mean, 2 guys that were involved in the third goal that you wouldn't normally expect them to be in those positions. So, it's done one thing for sure. It's made the top of the league more interesting.
Oh, it has, and if Brentford, they're 1-0 up, if Brentford beat City tonight, it'll be a different kettle of fish. But during the week, obviously, Tuesday night, I think Luton Town are playing Brighton at home. I fancied Brighton. Brighton were favourites to win it. We were all because of their form and because of what they were. I think most teams going to Luton would be favourites to win anyway. But I mean, really, I thought they played extremely well. I mean, they destroyed Brighton in the first half. They were 3-0 up. Was it 3-0? I think. Did you anyone really see that match?
Yeah, I mean, they were good. They were good value for their win. I mean, like you said, I mean, you'd imagine that some teams, especially in the top 6, 7, when they're going to Luton, you'd expect them to maybe win. But Luton are a very tough team to play against. They're a very difficult team to play against, and they've gotten better and stronger as the season's gone on. And I mean, to score 8 goals in 2 games
Yeah.
against what we consider to be top half the table teams, then that's a pretty good achievement right there.
The panelists on Match of the Day were suggesting, Derwyn, that Ross Barkley deserves to be back in the English team because of the form he's shown. I don't
I,
know what you think of that statement.
I think that's a bit of a stretch, but
Yeah,
I will
big
say
stretch.
this one: he has certainly since he's gone to Luton, he's become more of the player that he was. Although for the I'm not sure if it was the third goal or the equaliser. He lost the ball in just about 25 yards out, 30
Yeah,
yards out, and they went and scored from it. And to be honest, I thought it might have been a bit of a foul, but to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I mean, that was the only mistake he made in the game. I mean, he was picking balls out, picking passes out. He he did very well, and he's well suited to that team, the way that they play, because they rely on him to be a bit of a playmaker for them.
and I think Ross Barkley himself is getting better because I don't know, I wouldn't be an expert, but I think that they've given him a free rein and thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Good evening, James O'Brien,
Good evening, Mr. Barry. How are you?
Joe Waters, and Derwyn. You met before.
Hi, Derwynne.
Hey, how are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Hi, Joe.
Hi, how are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Good.
You can see he's pseudonym now is Walking Messi. He's the Walking Messi.
I always walk messy. It's a feature of my age.
I know. Yeah.
Same boat, I think.
I was telling the lads about I don't know anything about walking soccer. Derwyn has played it, Jim.
He's
Walking
played it.
soccer. Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah. Good fun, isn't it?
It's hilarious and hard. I was
What?
trying to explain to Joe earlier on how difficult it is not to run to a ball.
Oh yeah. It is. Yeah. But I think it hones your footballing skills because you have to, first of all, you have to be paying attention to where your teammates are, which is obviously a feature of football anyway. Um, but when they move into space, your pass has to be accurate and
Yeah,
it's got to be sharp, And it's a funny, for something that people classify as being wickedly casual and fun, which it is, but to play it properly, so many of the real features of real soccer are in there. Like I say, your pass has to be accurate because if your teammate is moving into space and calling for the ball, he doesn't have that long. It's not as if he can lose his marker by using his pace because pretty much everybody's pace is the same. So it does require it requires the proper skill set, and
Mm.
for guys like me who was, even though I was a winger, I was never that wickedly quick. The idea of being look made look like a fool by somebody who was two or three times faster than me. I always remember in school, one of my schoolmates went on to play for Waterford, John O'Douglas. John O was wickedly quick, and he used to embarrass me by every time I went past him and knocked the ball a bit further in front of me. The fecker would turn around, run past me, and pick up the ball. So, I learned very quickly. Just easier to give him the shagging thing and get it over with, save myself doing it. But mind you, Douglas was special, but never mind, that was it.
Jimmy,
Walking football is great.
but
Go on, Pat.
there is an interest in walking soccer, I presume, is there?
It's huge in the UK. I mean, Aston Villa have their walking football division. West Ham, as far as I know, have an actual recognised walking football section, and there's an awful lot going on to it. In Cree, in Galway, they have the heart health people. They have walking soccer sessions, and they have 4 or 5 of them a week, and they're all fully taken up. Now it's with them, it's an exercise rather than a sport.
Yeah,
I'd be looking
yeah,
on it as being a sport rather than an exercise, but it's quite tiring. I mean, you wouldn't believe how, walking around, but it's got, you're stopping, you're uh, accelerating, um, but there is, a fair amount of exercise. I mean, we had one on the first night that we had a number of people. There were guys sort of puffing and panting after 10, 15 minutes of it, and which surprised me. I wasn't because I was playing in goal. We had an odd number, so we played three and in. But, you know, a guy who would have been quite fit, he'd be in his early 50s, he was shagged. So it's not trivial. I would like to see it becoming a bit more serious. We've spoken to
yeah,
Galway about organising an inter-county competition and maybe getting a sort of a blitz going. Joe
yeah.
Waters, as far as I recall, is a fine footballer or was a fine footballer in his day. Um, is it something you'd be interested in, Joe?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was telling the lads earlier, when I played indoor over here in the States, and even a little bit in England, we played uh, as a warm up
Yeah,
before we'd even start, and it was just so difficult to get used to it because your first instinct is to run.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
somebody's having a shot or getting close to the goal and what have you. So but no, I mean there's a lot of interest. I know that I was sent to lads. Grimsby Town have a team also,
yeah,
and those lads, I mean, they go to Europe and play in tournaments.
yeah, yeah.
And
Actually, Barca, funny you should say that. Barca, the walking Messi thing, Barcelona have a walking football
yeah,
division as well. So it's not just something that the geriatric old feckers do for, because they, like me, I hate exercising, always did. Hate walking, hate training, everything. I'd be bored with walking after 20 seconds, but I'd play soccer for 4 hours.
yeah,
yeah,
I just hate the concept of exercising for exercise's sake. And that's why I got interested in the walking soccer because you do get the exercise and you're doing something that you enjoy. You're out in the
yeah,
fresh air. Well, we're out in the fresh air now because Ireland is, as I'm sure Pat knows, is not too very well supplied with indoor training facilities. There's a lot
no,
of all-weather pitches outdoors, but they're hard to come by. I mean, we've got one slot in Shannon in the leisure centre. We have no problems getting time at 11 o'clock on a Friday morning, but to get anything like a reasonable hour, we're lucky to get the one slot that we got. So it's hard to get it organised, but with a bit of
and
luck, it'll take off.
that slot is it 8 to 9 on a Friday night? Is it?
8 o'clock to 10 to 9 on a Friday night. Even that, Pat, has its drawbacks because the big plus with using the leisure centre is we have all the facilities. We've got access to a dressing room, we've got access to showers, the whole lot. It's a fantastic option for us. But,
Yeah,
and this is a big but, they close at 9 o'clock. So we finish at 10 to 9. You don't have a lot of time to nip in and have a shower. But with a bit of luck, we'll try to get an earlier time and then
yeah,
we'll have time
yeah.
for access to the shower and the whole lot.
Well, it's a beginning. It's a beginning for
It's a
people, you know.
beginning. That's the thing. Yeah, it's a
I know,
beginning. We'll
Derwynne,
see.
the next time you're over now, Derwynne, and your next time you're in Limerick, we'll have a sports view team for the walking soccer in the Midwest.
We'll have
yeah.
our coach online.
We, we were just,
I'll be called Stumbling Pele.
yeah,
Yeah, stumbling bell. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
I'll be called the upright Harry Maguire.
yeah. Yeah. It's
We,
about the
we,
only
were-
thing.
Standing,
It's the
standing
only.
dog.
It's the only thing right about him, Derwin. Sorry.
That
Sorry,
Well,
big dog, I think.
I know
well,
you're a big fan of
we were
Donkey.
talking about they had a good win yesterday, and they had a good win during the week as well, United. So, you know, they're up to six. Where are they? They're Man United are they are in sixth place, and Liverpool are on 51 points, Arsenal 49, Man City, Villa on 46, Spurs on 44, and Man United on 38. And Man City are playing the first of their chasing up teams to 2 games in hand. The first one is on, and they're behind now after 35 minutes, 1-0 still. So there you go.
1-0
That's
to City, is it? I haven't even looked at 1-0 to City.
No, Brentford. Brentford are 1-0 up after
Great.
35 minutes. It's
And,
on,
and
I
they
have
have
it on
to
here.
and they have to play them again. Their other game in hand is against Brentford as well.
No,
One
no,
at
it's
home and
against
one
Everton.
away.
Is it against Everton, Jim? Is it?
No, Brentford. It's,
Or is
the,
it?
it's yeah, it's one of the postponed matches. It's a match that was
It's the double, so
postponed.
home and away.
Yeah, it was the World Cup match when they went away to play in the World Club Cup,
Oh God,
whenever
yeah.
that was. It was the game
Whatever.
against Brentford over the weekend that they lost. So they're
Yeah.
playing Brentford twice. So um, unfortunately, it means whatever chance Brentford have of beating them the first time, once Guardiola wakes up, they won't beat him the second time. So,
Yeah, well, there's a little bit to go on this game. And
There is, yeah. There is. I mean,
but De Bruyne, what's his name, Haaland playing for the
he
first
is.
how long together. So
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting once those two. Imagine that you have a team, you can bring over 100 million worth of talent on. Not have
yeah,
to-
well, it'll be interesting, Joe, to see what happens if the Premier League get balls and decide to punish
Relegate
them
them.
to financial fair play. I mean, it's absolutely open what they could do to them. They could dock them points. They could force them to cut the size of their squad. They could fine them. Well, fining them would be a joke because
No, fine is no good.
you'd
I
have to
think
fine them billions for it to make any harm.
relegation would be the right decision for Man City.
Well, the problem, I mean, the thing that they've already set the precedent now that they've docked
With
points
Everton,
from
yeah.
Everton. So,
Yeah.
in some ways you look at that and maybe you go, they took care of this first because they could deal with a little bit of the fallout. The problem that UEFA had with City was that they got their attorneys on it. And the minute you have lawyers involved in it, you're absolutely goosed because they'll drag it on forever and a day.
And all they had to do, Joe, was drag it on because the Court of Arbitration for Sport has a time limit. So all the lawyers had to do was push the hearings out past the time limit, and then the Court of Arbitration for Sport says we can't hear this. So bye bye, off you go. And that's what 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it's crazy. What always worried me about it was
I'm on the program.
what always pisses me off is when the hosts of these TV programs start going on the phone and ignoring their guests when they're talking. No, sorry. Well, actually,
I'll have a word. I'll have a word with that fellow tomorrow.
We can always find another host,
That would be a good idea. Somebody who knows what he's doing would be a help anyway. Anyway, Joe, one thing that actually scares me about this, and we saw it, the Qataris were very quick to start sending letters to Downing Street, pointing out that it wouldn't be good for the social fabric of Britain if City got hurt. And I mean, that's basically saying we leave a lot of money in your country. If you want that money to stay there, don't kick the shit out of Manchester City. I could see them getting away with this. I mean, when you think about it, what Everton did was relatively innocuous insofar as they tweaked the books to stay alive. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's acceptable. It really is. They're a huge club that got into trouble and they had to be a little bit
Creative.
creative and they got caught. City, on the other hand, lied. They paid the manager under the table. They paid him double the salary. That's crookery. I mean, that's a jailable fraud offence. And all they're talking about is maybe we'll dock 10 points from them. I mean, what they should be saying is every league title they've won in the last 5 years, everything they've won should be stripped from them. Every signing they made while their books didn't balance should be taken from them. And that would be a statement. But taking 10 points off them, costing them the league for 1 year, will have absolutely no effect at all. The only hope is that the Newcastles and the Evertons will absolutely freak if City, with their list of 105 crimes, if they get the same punishment as people who just try to keep their head above water. And
That's a fair, yeah. That's a fair
I don't
point.
know. Yeah.
Just for the people who will be looking at this program, we are not anti-city. We're talking about.
No.
We're talking
Oh, hold
about.
on. No. Have to correct you there. I am most
We-
definitely.
generally speaking,
And this,
we're for
and
fair
this,
play in soccer.
this
I'm
from
not-
somebody. This from somebody. Sorry, Derwynne, who shouts for Liverpool, who has a soft spot for Chelsea, and as far as I'm concerned, Man United can lose every week, and it won't cost me a thought, except for 1 week, if 2 weeks. Anytime they're playing City, I'm shouting for United. I despise City. I despise everything that they have become. The only upside is Guardiola is a great manager, but I wonder how good he'd be if they said, listen, your 5 million a year is now just cut to 550,000 plus expenses. I wonder how long he'll hang around.
Well,
I
if
can't see
they're
him staying that long.
But
if
you're right,
if they
though.
were
The
if they
thing
were relegated to the championship, how would they fare out as the club?
But I mean, is that even enough? Let's be honest here. When Juventus had their problems, when they were bribing referees and what have you, they got put down to the third division.
Did it?
Yeah.
You know, when we had teams in the football league that could not make ends meet and that had overspent, and they're kicked out of the league.
Yeah.
And they have
Yeah.
to start from the lowest tiers. Like
Yeah.
Darlington went broke, had to go down and start in the ninth tier of English football. So if it's a punishment that smaller clubs can have, why can't big clubs be punished for the level of what they do?
Well,
It's called clout, Joe. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
and
Unfortunately, it is.
even what you're saying about bounce them down into the championship, while that would be, and I fully agree with you, that wouldn't be enough. But, and this is the huge but, for a team that gets relegated, the biggest problem they have is the amount of revenue that they've lost between being a Premiership side and being a Championship side. That's not going to affect City. The guys with the money who are backing them will keep giving them the money, and they'll only be down there for one season. Rangers, another club that I wouldn't be very fond of,
yeah.
they at least got bounced down to the bottom tier of the top tier in Scotland.
I've forgotten
And they
about
came up. There was two years that they didn't come up automatically. They missed. There were 2 years where they missed promotion, but they were put down and had to come up a long way, and the money wasn't there for them. You could put City down to the Football League North, and they would still get so much money. They just ride roughshod over everybody, and they'd be moaning, and they'd set up Live TV, LIV Soccer TV, and they would be showing games on that all the time. And no, I'd say strip them of their prizes and shove them down as far as you possibly can. That's about the only fair thing. But
Yeah.
I would bet a lot of money to all three of you there. That ain't going to happen. The
Yeah,
Saudis and the Arabs have much too much power. They're just not going to be allowed to do that. Like I said, the Premier League have to suddenly find balls, but I don't think they're going to.
but
Well,
they're really going to have to though, because if they don't do something about this, then it makes the whole thing a laughing stock.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It kills
And
FFP.
they
It kills the
can't
concept of
anymore
financial fair play.
turn around and say to any other club, you cannot do what City did. Because all they have to do is point the finger at the blue side of Manchester and go,
Yep.
they did whatever they wanted up there. How are you going to punish us for this?
Yeah.
yeah.
Where's the
It's-
logic in that?
Yeah, it sets a precedent and a bad precedent. That, yeah.
We're saying there.
Yeah, but unfortunately, no, Pat, as Joe said, the Premier League are being fierce smart and they're being very, very devious and underhanded. They've dished out a 10-point penalty to Everton. So now if they can dish a 10-point penalty to City, nobody can turn around and say, as Joe says, nobody can turn around and say, well, you did that to them. Why didn't you do that? All they've done with Everton is they've given themselves a yardstick. And
Yeah.
the yardstick is, right, this is what we have to do. So we will dock them 10 points next season, not this season. It won't be this season. It'll be next season. So City will turn around and they will buy Mbappe and they'll buy every single decent player. They'll get Jude Bellingham. They'll get everybody else. They'll do all that. Don't know how they're going to do it, but they will. And they'll spend 1 year in the Championship making more money than most of the Premier League teams, making more money than all of the Premier League teams, and they'll be back up. And nobody is going to be able to complain about it. Really.
SportsView is the program here. We're here every Monday night on theirmedia.tv. Tell all your friends about us. Press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our channel here with Derwynne, Joe, Jimmy, and myself. We're going to move quickly along to
Can I talk
rugby.
about that though?
Huh?
Just talking about that. When,
Yes.
if they're relegated to the Championship for whatever, the EFL has different rules than the EPL.
It has.
Financials, right?
Yes.
And you cannot spend more there than you're bringing in, because how many other Premier League clubs have fallen into that? Didn't Derby get relegated because
did.
they're taking 20 points or something off of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were spending too much money and they overshot what they had. So there is a little bit of jeopardy for them if they were down a division.
Man City have equalised with 2 minutes to go to half time.
The interesting question would be, if they did get relegated down to the Championship, how many of their players would have it in their contracts that they're immediately sold on to another Premier League or a European thing?
But that wouldn't be the problem, though. The problem would be is that they would have to adjust their pay scale, because they have players on too much money. You know, you only have a certain amount of money you can spend on players' wages in the Championship, correct?
That's right.
So they would be in trouble right there by what they're
They would.
probably
They'd have to, first of all, as Jimmy said earlier, they'd have to shrink. If they're relegated to the Championship, they'd have to get rid of at least 50% of their squad, because they wouldn't be able to have them on the books, because they'd be in conflict straight away with the wage structure. So
listen, these guys are as devious as they come. All they'll do is they'll stick a pile of squad players out on loan, get one of their sponsors to pay a club to pay the wages for them, and that's all they have to do. It's the wage bill, as Joe says, is the issue. A lot of players who go out on loan, their home club pick up the tab for their wages. But if they're sent out to a club who are getting suddenly find sponsorship of 4 billion a year, and they suddenly find themselves able to pay some of these squad players. Bear in mind, Manchester United squad, or Manchester City squad, sorry, Derwynne, Freudian slip. Manchester City's squad is so strong. They could settle for 18 players and send everybody out on loan for a year, come out of the championship, and then they're back in happy days in the Premiership again. I don't think a year in the championship is enough punishment. I think they should be at least bounced down to the fourth division and see how. And as Joe says, the EFL is going to be savage in the fourth division because they won't. While they get decent crowds at Manchester City, the question is, of course, how many people will show up to see City stonking Wrexham at the racecourse ground in Wrexham with its 8,000-seater stadium. They won't have that much money coming in, and
No.
the rules are gate receipts have to go a certain way towards paying the wages. So they could find it tough. But, you know, financial fair play meant they shouldn't have been doing the things they were doing. What makes you think these gangsters are going to stop? They'll find a way, you know, they really will. And they'll go fourth division, they'll go League Two, League One, Championship, and then Premiership again. I think I think Joe is right. You have to make a statement to everybody that says,
Well,
look, it's going to be a serious cost for you if you do anything like this again. And the serious cost.
There'll have to be serious sanctions sometime. There has to be a day of reckoning, you know. SportsView is a program here every Monday night on their media.tv. Press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our channel. And over the weekend, the Six Nations began. Ireland began the Six Nations away to France on a Friday night, and they were very impressive. They demolished France in Marseille, 38-17. England beat Italy 27-24 over in Rome, and Scotland beat Wales 27-26. So coming up next weekend, with Scotland versus France, England versus Wales, and Ireland are playing Italy next Sunday. Joe, did you see any of the rugby? Ireland were very impressive on Friday night.
Yeah, they were. So much for them going to have a hangover.
Yeah.
They did not look like they missed the beat. If that team had played like that in the World Cup, I think it would have been a whole different kettle of fish. But no, I mean, it's great to see them come back with new players and still be as dominant as they were. That was terrific to see.
Do you see
I agree. I think there were several good takeaways from it. One was I hate to say it because I'm not a big fan of Leinster. Tom McCarthy is some monster of a player, but at least
he's definitely not a vegetarian.
At least Farrell wasn't fixated with finding a Leinster out half, and he's quite prepared to play the player in form, who's Crowley. Crowley had a great game. So, you know, it does bode well. I think Ireland, this won't mean anything to Derwynne, really, but I think the Ireland rugby team, where a World Cup is concerned, are like Mayo in the Gaelic football with their 50-year course that you're not going to win the All-Ireland.
No,
I think it's in their mind. We can't get past the quarter-final.
In that World Cup, it has to be said, the management were really caught with their pants down against the All Blacks, and there has been no recrimination in the media here in this country about it. They played an injured player on the wing against the All Blacks, Matt Hansen. He was injured against the All Blacks in the most important game of the last 20 years. And they played Johnny Sexton, who was totally off form, totally and utterly off form. I mean, they were caught very badly in the World Cup. The same management team, fair play to them, they were forced to make those changes, whether they liked it or not. They were forced to go with youth, whether they liked it or not. But obviously they learned their lesson from the World Cup, because I think they let themselves down badly, you know, in the World Cup.
They did, but they still have. I think Peter O'Mahony, great and all as a player as he is. I don't think he's captain I don't think he's really captain material. I think Peter O'Mahony should be left to play his game. If he has anything else on his mind, it sort of distracts him a little bit. I don't know who you would make captain. Maybe Gibson Park, who seems to be a sort of a clever player. The James Ryan they've been talking about, but he
Will
couldn't
be
even get
active.
his place. So it's a problem. But there's some young players coming through, which is great. It's not like Pat will remember this, and I know Joe will remember this. Once upon a time, there was a saying in Ireland, Derwynne, was that it was harder to get off the Ireland team than it was to get on it. Once you
Yeah.
got a place in the Ireland rugby team, that was it. Somebody had to be God before he actually took your place. Happily, that doesn't apply that much anymore. It did
No.
apply with Sexton. And I think that was what hurt Ireland as much as anything else.
Without
They
a
were
shadow. Don't get me wrong.
fixated.
Sexton was the world class player, but he hasn't been for the last 2 or 3
He
years.
hadn't been for years. No,
No,
he hadn't been.
no, he's been nothing. But anyway, it's good to see them. England beat Italy, Derwin. As I said, I fancied England quietly myself because of the way they conducted and played themselves in the World Cup. They got into the semi-finals. They were the only team from the Northern Hemisphere to get into the semi-finals. All the other three were Southern Hemisphere. So from that point of view, I thought they would show more. It took them a long while to get into the match against Italy, but Italy put up a sterling display. But really, you wouldn't, and you won't fancy them to beat Ireland next Sunday. I think that's a 50-point game for Ireland. But when Scotland are playing France, Scotland are probably the second best team in the Six Nations behind Ireland, in my opinion, right now.
I'd kind of argue with that one.
Yeah, I would have an argument on that one.
How would I?
If you watch the Scotland Wales match at the weekend, it was like, I mean, Wales never showed up in the first half. When they finally got going, when they came out of the dressing room and finally rolled their sleeves up and started playing, they had a hell of a game. And I mean, Scotland were looking to hold on there. I mean, if Wales had scored a try and a penalty in the first half, that would have been, I think they would have beat them out the gate. But, Wales were very, very good in the second half. And if they can harness that and bring it forward, I think that's going to be great. I mean, the England thing, I disagree with you on that one, Pat, for the simple reason that they're playing Italy and you only beat them by what? 3 points?
3 points. 3 points, yeah.
Come on. I mean, let's be honest here. That Italy are great for putting up about 50 minutes in a game.
Yeah.
And then the wheels come off and the scores start going in. So I would have expected more from England, especially as you said, with their showing in the World Cup. I thought they surpassed themselves in the World Cup. But I had hoped for a little bit more. And even Clive Woodward says that, if England are going to be are going to push themselves forward, they've got to start looking at what Ireland are doing, and they've got to replicate that model of what we're doing. And they're a long way from doing that, I think.
I think Wales in the first half, they played so many new youngsters that they were just overawed by the whole occasion.
Yeah.
And I think they went in that second half and they had nothing to lose, did they? It was like, we're either going to lose this 50-0 or we're going to come back into the game. And I think they played like youngsters would, as in they kind of threw caution to the wind, didn't they? And they missed a couple of, I think they missed a couple of penalties or conversion kicks. And obviously, Josh Adams scooping the ball up and throwing it into the crowd gave Finn Russell a straightforward 3-point kick from nowhere, didn't he?
Yeah. I think Scotland panicked to a certain extent. They sort of took their eye off the ball. They sort of, they kept Wales scoreless in the first half. And I think they came out at the start of the second half thinking, we just have to mark time for 40 minutes. And they could never get up. It's like in soccer, the famous 2-goal lead is the worst lead, and that's because two goals is a comfortable lead. All of a sudden, if you give up a goal, it's now only a 1-goal lead, and you can't get yourself back into the mode you were in when you were scored
No.
those 2 goals. And I think that was what happened. Scotland, they were in taking it seriously, beat these guys out the gate. We have the job done at half time. Grand, we can just play with the
think the
ball for
average-
40 minutes.
You know what though? The for me the most serious thing with the Scottish team was they give up.
Oops.
They gave up Joe Waters. Obviously, there's some Scotsman who doesn't like Joe Waters. There you are. You're back, Joe.
That was the Loch Ness monster got you there.
It was
Joe.
the Loch
So,
Ness man.
Didn't they give up 13 penalties in a row there? And they got two yellow cards for it. So their discipline went out the window.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you're, in any sport, you're going to be in trouble with it. So, and that's facing a game that you were.
Of course, we forgot to mention France got a man sent off in the game as well.
Yeah.
And
He
mean,
was sent
Wales-
off 10. He was sent off 10 minutes later than he should have been sent off, as well.
think
Which was
Wales,
the other thing.
I think the average age on that Welsh team on Saturday was 21.
Yeah.
So they play. He's building something for further down the road here, aren't he? Isn't he?
yeah, they'll definitely get their game up for next weekend. They're playing England.
They'll go out against England. They'll go and try and win that all day long because there just is. It's all,
Can't cut a cup.
half Irish, half Welsh here, but
We'll just touch on golf before, because what's his name over the weekend? There was a few competitions over the weekend, and Dylan Fritzelli from South Africa won the Bahrain Championship. Now, Dylan Fritzelli was on the verge of 12 months ago of giving up the game of golf at the age of 33, and because he was so disheartened and lots of other problems. But he's the world number 454. Obviously, he'll move up now after winning that. But, it was a good win for him. 67, 68, 69, and 71 he shot. Over then, we had the beginning of the first weekend of Live Golf over in Mallorca in Mexico. And Joachim Neiman from Chile, I love watching him because I think he's a very, very good golfer. He shot a 59, a 72, and 59 and doing 70. But he won it in the playoff against Sergio Garcia. I watched most of that over the weekend, dipping in and out of it. Garcia was playing sublime golf for my mind. He played very, very well indeed. And
Rahm's kicking himself.
And John Ram missed 2 birdies. That's another.
We finished bogey to miss the playoff by one.
Till hadn't played well as well. They all Brooks Koepka, who's who have got. But anyway, that was their first 4 million. Joachim won 20 million plus for each competition, and it was nice to see them. And then in Pebble Beach, they cancelled the last day out because of the weather and the dangerous weather that they have in America. We've seen the pictures of the weather. Wyndham Clark won the Pebble Beach, and Seamus Power finished in the top 30 at -7, 71, 67, and 71. So decent enough for Seamus Power. And what's his name? McIlroy finished away down the field. So I didn't see much of that because of the thing. There's other things as well, We had a Davis Cup match here in Limerick between Austria and Ireland, and out in UL Complex over the weekend, which got a decent crowd out there. I had meant to go out there, but I suppose you can't be everywhere, And the Linz Open, the women's 500 series was run by Ostapinko from Latvia. People remember her winning the French Open when she was only 17. 6 or 7 years ago now, but she won that 6-2, 6-3 against another up and rising star, Alexandrova, another one of those Russians who seem to produce an incredible amount of tennis players. Anyway, so that's the golf. Did you see much of it, Derwynne?
I didn't see much of the golf.
Yeah.
I mean, they reckon it was pitch black by the time they finished that fourth playoff hole, didn't they?
It was almost dark, yeah. They decided to keep going. They didn't want to play the extra. It was the fourth extra hole in the Live Golf one. John Ram gave it is on YouTube if you want to see his press conference or somebody says he's a funny man. I think he's a good sense of humour. But until Hatton enjoyed himself as well, it was different. But I mean, I think it's a shame that you have probably the top 20 or 30 golfers playing in one competition and maybe a handful playing in another. I think that the PGA have some responsibility to get into serious talks with the Live Golf people and sort it out, because it's for the good of the game people should be looking at, not for the selfish interests, in my opinion, of Jay Monaghan and his ilk who've been there so long, and the carry on of them, but it hasn't done golf good for a few years, So it's time. It's time to get their act together. Do you see any of the golf, Jimmy, over the weekend?
I saw Pebble Beach. I saw a fair amount of Pebble Beach, and I, like Derwynne, I went cold on it very quickly when I saw that McIlroy pulled his usual early season stroke of having 4 or 5 holes where he took himself out of contention. I was hoping to see Power doing well for obvious reasons, but he just, the problem that I have with TV coverage of the American competitions is they can't take the camera off American golfers and Rory McIlroy. They
Yeah.
don't show anybody else, and it can be very off-putting. The only time they'll show you someone like Lowry is when he either sinks an 80-foot putt or he puts his approach shot from 80 yards into the water and puts his recovery into the bunker, and that's the only time you actually see those. So that kind of puts me off a bit. I like the DP World Tour because their coverage tends to be much more balanced, but the game isn't as good. But following on from what you were saying there, Pat, about Moynihan, Moynihan crapped on McIlroy and Ram, who were fighting against Liv furiously, and I think Liv pulled the best stroke they could pull by buying Ram over onto their side. But to say that Moynihan is looking after his own money is to also ignore that Live Golf bought their tour by offering here we go, conversation going a circle again, by offering Manchester City style wages to players to just play in their competition. And I think that who I feel sorry for in all of this is the players that they brought on board, promised them money, told them that there was a limit in the number of players that they would have. But if you're at the lowest level of the Live Tour stable and they get in John Rahm, you get kicked out. And all of a sudden, you have the unfortunate situation where you are a PGA Tour player, not making a lot of money. Live Golf offered you millions. So you said, I'm going to take that. John Rahm comes on board. All of a sudden, you're kicked off the Live Golf Tour. And now you got to go back to the PGA, who are going to say to you, yeah.
If anybody following Live Golf last year, the end of last year, they had a relegation and promotion playoff for anybody who wanted to participate. And obviously they had anticipated that there would be names coming on board anyway, because they were in negotiation with them. So there are opportunities there for relegation, for the competition, for people who are about to be replaced. Or
yeah, I hear what you're saying, Pat, but somebody has to get out.
The PGA Tour,
somebody has to go out.
The PGA Tour didn't give a crap about anybody outside the top 40 or 40 for years. They had exclusive competition, the same as Live Golf, for years and years, and there was nothing ever about it. nothing. The guys who were at the top, who had more than enough money, kept taking all the best money. So look, they're both in a mess to me. They both should get together. And if a golfer like Tyrrell Hatton, who signed up for 50 million, that's more than he made at 32 years of age up to now on the PGA Tour. And are you telling me that there isn't money in the PGA Tour? Of course there is. Of course there is.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's you know, and Derwynne knows this too. On the American tour, there are people who are making 5 and 6 million a year who never, ever, ever figure in the top line tournaments because there are so many tournaments in the States which you've got reasonable purses and you could make a good living over there. I think there's
Yes.
something like 400 golfers in the States make 1 to 2 million a year, and you never hear of them. They're in the top 600 in the world, but they win these pissy little tournaments in
So,
Boise, Idaho. But the critical point here is that it's like the soccer super league. They're focusing money on the supreme game, and the PGA Tour. You're right, Pat. They got their head in their hands when they suddenly realised we're going to lose players to money. And what Moynihan thought was that I'm going to lose over the hill golfers like Sergio Garcia and Lefty, who are not going to be uh, marquee names and are not going to pull sponsorship and television into the PGA Tour. To hell with them, they can go. And all of
Yeah.
a sudden, Live God started getting the John Rams, the guy who
Brooks
won
Koepka.
the Open, Brooks Koepka. So they suddenly got the big names, and they had to actually wake up. But again, you're right. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and I don't see a solution to it. By the way, I was at a table quiz the other night, and one of the questions was Live Golf, LIV. What does the LIV stand for?
54. It's a 54 hole tournament, Holland.
Force.
Very good.
Roman
Very
numerals.
good. Sorry?
Roman numerals for 54.
Yeah. I never knew. I thought it was some
Do you
obscure.
remember that? Joe, you remember that? Car 54, where are you?
Oh
I do.
yeah,
I do. Yeah.
all doing
Yeah.
in Turkey.
Car 54. Lads,
Yeah. Well, that's the PGA. That's
Jeez,
that's
that's
Moynihan.
long.
He's car
That's a
54.
long time ago now.
before we
It
finish,
is
Jim, we'll put the word out about walking soccer. I mean, a lot of us are coming to that age where it might be fun to have walking soccer, excluding one of the
It
and
is, Pat. I played it for a few weeks now, and it is great fun. The biggest thing, as
by
Joe
the way,
said,
I mean,
is
what
is
what do
is,
you
is
need?
staying walking. That's the
What do you,
hardest bit.
what do you need equipment wise? Apart from a walking stick, what do you
Trainers,
need? Huh?
trainers, trainers.
Trainers.
That's
Oh,
all. That's all. An iron lung would be a help as well.
a
Uh,
what?
an iron lung or an oxygen tank would be a help as well. And I went down to the leisure centre and I parked my car in a place that I shouldn't have been. And the girl there, in her typical smart arse way, came up to me and
Just lost it for a minute, Jim. It's no problem.
Yeah,
I'm afraid the bad news, lads, is Man City are gone ahead.
yeah. Well, we knew that was happening.
over.
And
The most important question: do you think we could get the Saudis to sponsor
To
the
f-
Women's Soccer League?
oh yeah,
unfortunately, Joe, I've been advertising and I've been saying, and this is a very interesting thing. Um, Walking soccer has an age limit. You have to be over 50 for a man and over 40 for a woman. And I would think that because physicality doesn't make that much difference, women could be just as useful as walking soccer. So, unfortunately, if we have women in shorts involved, the Saudis won't come near
Oh,
us,
they won't. They
and
won't come back.
that's a
Derwynne,
problem.
you might have a contact number for Greg Norman. We could give him a buzz about. about some-
I'm gonna
Yeah,
put it.
well, he might be
a friend of a friend.
he might be doing some. Yeah, isn't it really annoying though, lads, when you think of how much money these guys actually get paid for doing something that
Oh,
we do for fun, really. Um,
yeah.
it's an obscene, especially golfers, because their career is so long. I've always sympathized with soccer players, really, because the career isn't that long. It really, how long they can make top money isn't that big. But Harrington is still making 3 or 4 million a year,
Yeah.
and he's
Well,
58. Like,
he's a good
Well,
golfer.
before we go, I do think we should pay a little bit of respect for Barry John.
Oh yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, yeah,
That would
yeah.
be remiss of us not to say something about that, mate.
Right.
Um,
And actually, funny enough, the same era, a little bit before, J.P.R. Williams,
Yes.
who was one
Not
of a
last
fine
week.
fullback. I
we had a
remember
little,
I
we had a little tribute to JPR on the show, and Barry John was just such a fabulous player. You know, such
yeah,
he was the black and white hero, as I call it, the black and white hero
Yeah.
on television here in this country anyway. But he was the first of the modern day superstars in rugby. Barry John, this side of the world certainly. You know, he was respected throughout the world.
I think even the New Zealander players after that 71 Lions,
Yeah,
that's when he got called the king, didn't they?
yeah,
That's when he
yeah.
got the nick.
Yeah, you're right. 71, yeah, 71 that was, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a great program on iPlayer as well called Slam. It's all about they've gone through Wales in the 60s and 70s. They're now into the 80s, and it's a great program to watch. But the earlier one, with that Welsh team in the 70s,
Oh,
was unbelievable. And then if you watch it, I mean, it's a good program to watch. But they had a big thing last night on BBC about Barry John. They had a lot of players talking about him and stuff like that.
well,
And
to me,
there's a great story about him and Gareth Edwards. So Gareth Edwards gets picked for Wales to make his first cap, and he turns around, phones Barry John up, and says, "Can we meet up and have a little runabout and just get a feel for it and everything else?" And he was like, "Yeah, okay. Where do you want to go?" And he said, "Well, I don't know. Where do you name it?" So they went to a park in Cardiff called Roke Park, and they didn't have. They turned up. Barry John's come straight out of the bank, and he's got like his suit on and everything else because he worked for Midlands Bank.
yeah,
And he's literally in the park, and they haven't brought a ball between them. And he rolls up his jacket and gives the jacket to Gareth Edwards, and he says, "We'll just use this." And so rolled it up like a football. And like Gareth turned around and said, where do you want it?" And he said, "I don't really care. Just throw it to me and I'll catch it. That's all you got to do when you're out there playing. Just throw the ball out. I'll get it and we'll go from there." And he was like, "Well, yeah, but you want it in front of you? Like, do you want to run onto it at pace?" And he's like, "Oh, Gareth, just throw me the bloody ball. That's all you've got to concentrate on." And Gareth Edwards last night on this sort of little clip reminded everybody on the show about that story. And he says, "I played for about 5 seasons where all I had to do was throw it. And in the end," he said, "I kind of knew where he'd be and I'd just throw it to a gap." He said, and lo and behold, he said, Barry John's hands would come out and he'd pick it up and go. Something would happen. He said, "But we didn't train, we didn't talk about tactics, we didn't talk about anything." He said, "I just got the ball out the scrum and threw it that direction."
instinct and
He
genius.
was always there.
Genius. And as you said, that 1971 Lions tour really cemented his place in world rugby, because if you gain the respect and the admiration of the All Blacks at the time, who were, and still are, Mr. Rugby and world, Barry John, to me, he destroyed Ireland many times. Good Irish team, He really did, that team. But
It's worth BBC iPlayer. It's worth watching. It's good
Yeah.
program for an hour every.
And
every
for those
episode.
here, for those looking here, lads, there's plenty clips on YouTube on Barry John as well. There's plenty clips on Barry John on YouTube you'll find. But look up the 1971 Nines tour of, and you will get some scintillating of video. It's a good note to end, lads, and from Joe Waters, from Derwynne Honan, and from our special guest tonight, Jimmy O'Brien. Walking Messi, you saw and heard him here first on SportsView. And we'll all be walking soccer. We'll all be walking around and myself. Until we meet again, lads, great having me and a great blast. And 2-1 as we go off here to Man City and they're on for another 3 points. Take care, guys.
Is it? Oh, grand, we're gone past 9 o'clock, so I could go. Oh fuck! When I hear that result, the kids are all in bed at this stage.
Take care. And, good luck, lads.
Waiting for that all night.
See you,
Good
Pat.
night, lads.
Yeah. You know me.